Hi, everybody. Welcome. We have a big class this year. I'm Claire, as you will probably have gathered. And I want to welcome you to 1608 for the full term. And I think we're in for an interesting discussion. You certainly, you actually broke new records for how many notes were produced in a week in this group. I think it's probably because it is a large class, but you're all chatty and interested, and that's great. For those of you who are feeling a bit overwhelmed about this at this point and go, my lord, if we have to produce this each week, don't worry about that. As I'm talking in this little video, I'm going to talk to you about some strategies you can use to make your time online more reasonable and work for you. So first of all, we're going to be working groups from now on. So you can see that from next week, we've got, not next week, this week, we have two groups. So, and within there, you have questions that you can answer in there. And so that will make it a little bit easier because it's really unmanageable with a big group. Because then, if you go off and have a coffee, you come back and you've got another 10 minutes. It's too much. So, and if you start later in the week, it's completely overwhelming. So this will help a little bit. The other thing is that I suggest that people, as they kind of go through this, is you have to be kind of strategic. You can start out with lots of enthusiasm, but as the realities of the term and your own work lives and family lives kind of become, come into play, you will change your strategies a little bit. And I don't make requirements for how much you engage in the online discussion, but I do see the online discussion as being something that is, it's like a mechanism for actually learning, because that discussion, if we were all face to face, we'd be doing that. We'd be talking. Instead of talking, we're writing. And that's, it's the learning piece. It's how you come to understand these ideas. Because the reading by itself is one thing, but, that only gets you so far. It helps to have that kind of discussion. And that's a big piece of constructivism. It's a big piece of how I teach. And I try to teach the course in a constructivist manner to sort of model some of the ideas that we're going to talk about as we go through. So I changed the groups that we meet in a little bit each week, and so that you get a chance to work with everybody by the end of the course. And it's and as I say, it's easier to discuss things in smaller groups. The moderator's role, there's 2 moderators per week. As you know, you've signed up. Some weeks we have 3, and that's fine. And that's, what happens is the moderators and I try to kind of keep the discussion going. The moderators are responsible for, and I think when you have 2 people, it's easier to each take, each take a group. When you have 3, you might divide it up by question. You can figure out how you best want to do that. And to do a little summary at the end of the week of kind of some of the big ideas that came out, what you see as sort of important things or real trends in the class that where people were gathered around a lot of things, or where you haven't made much headway, where's something that's still really difficult to understand yet, because this course kind of builds, I suppose, courses do, I suppose, and they're all, what we're going to be introduced to are different kind of components that in the end lead to constructivism. So we're going down a path, and I'm giving you a sort of topographic map to find your way through this kind of area. So you don't really have to respond to all 3 questions each week unless you want to. When I mark, I look for growth. I look for engagement. I know that everybody's come from very different backgrounds. You have different subject matter backgrounds. You have different experiences. You have different goals. And, all I want to do is be able to see that you've started in one place and you've ended up further ahead in a different place. I'm not expecting everybody to start and end in the same place. So I give you room in graduate courses to build on ideas that resonate for you. And there may be particular things that you really like and really find fascinating. It's also a good way to figure out what it is you want to do for your final assignment, to sort of get into particular ideas rather than just responding to lots of things all the time. And I want you to find ideas that resonate with your own professional and academic lives and your own goals. So one of the tools that we're going to do, that you can use to help you do this kind of growth, and some of you have already set them up, are your learning journals. And those are, you're welcome to use a blog if you already have one. If you haven't, I know lots of people who started a blog and then continued it after they finished the course. You might get into it. I know some people hate journaling. Lots of people start this course and hate journaling. By the end of it, I've almost had nobody over the years who's continued to hate it. They've decided that actually it's quite useful. And it really does help you kind of, again, pull things together a little bit. So think about that. Yeah, and my way of evaluating at the graduate level isn't really so much of a sort of incremental, quantitative picture. You did so many notes and this, that, and the other thing. It's more a kind of holistic view of how you participate. In terms of contributing to the class discussion and to other people's ideas. So posting an entry at the beginning or the end of the week and then not engaging with anybody's ideas isn't the best way to do well in my class, because I really think the discussion is the learning tool here. So I don't expect your responses to be essays either, in the discussion. I think you can write things they don't have to be super long, let's just go and look at some of these. A couple of paragraphs. There are things, and this is sort of what people do. Then there are short comments because they're responses to things. It's good not to write 17 pages in a question, because people can't read them. People go, oh, I'm going to leave this for later. So it's better to make one point in a note and kind of work on that. So it's just like the conversation idea. You're trying to connect with what somebody's saying. Think about whether you'd like to do a collaborative assignment for this course too, because again, I notice a real quality sort of increment when people do collaborative work, and I think it comes out of the same process of having to kind of knock ideas around with somebody else so that you really get to sort of understand them well. So think about that. You can talk to people. If you go to the biographies, look at the number of biography notes that we've gotten here. I can't even keep up with them all of your back and forth chat. And I notice those things go on the whole term. So this is one of the means that people use to find somebody, and then they have a conversation with them and ask them if they would like, be interested in doing a collaborative assignment. I want to show you something very quickly, though, just about private notes. See, if I was down here and let's say I wanted to say something to Elizabeth, I could send her a note, a sort of private reply. And I would put something in there, and I would spell her name right and stuff. And then I would save it, and here it is. Now, the only people who can see it are me and her. It doesn't even show up like that. The only reason we can see it at all is because I'm one of the authors on it. For you, if you weren't Elizabeth, you wouldn't see anything. So you can actually have sub-discussions in there. If there are sometimes points where you want to ask somebody something, but you don't really want to do it publicly, or you want to check on something, or you want to ask something if it's a bit off topic. Maybe somebody's uploaded a video and you want to understand where they got that from, or you want to ask them more about the site. Those kinds of off-topic questions, you can use private replies for that kind of thing. I'm going to delete it just because we don't need it there already. But I want you to know about that. And obviously the other way is to write messages, and you should use private messages, because when you come into the community, there's nobody. Actually, it's the first time there's only been me up here since I think the beginning of the week, last week. But you'll see other people's icons on here when you come in, and you can click on those icons. And of course, I can't talk to myself, but if you click on somebody else's icon, it will have a link to a private message. So that way you can use messaging, but it can be more instantaneous, because you know that person is online. So, okay, those were just a couple of things I wanted to mention. Here's my other points. Okay, I try to keep these videos short each week, and what I will do in the future weeks is make them more content oriented. This week, I wanted to not overwhelm you because I think you've already been overwhelmed, um, and so I want to keep it short and not to get too far into some ideas. But normally, my summaries will be. I try not to make them, you know, too long. The only thing I would suggest that you remember in these conversations is that we are respectful, and you are already being that way. You know that we are all we all bring knowledge and experience and resources to this course, and we all learn from each other, and that's a kind of tone that I sort of expect to see in people's comments. Um, Okay. Now, don't worry too much. I know these ideas are really huge. I've given you like a little taste of these people, and they're massive. All of this, the reading. In fact, this was just sort of the beginning, just to get some of those concepts in it. And now we're already into the history, which is these all these people. But I just want to give you a taste of those people. I don't expect you to be able to now go off and write a paper on Bruner's theory or Piaget's theory. These are names that you know. I'm sure most of you have heard of them. And I just want to give you a sense of who they are. If you wanted to do something in more depth on these, maybe you wanted to, make that a focus for a final paper, then you go in and you do more reading and you really try to come to grips with the nuts and bolts. If you have questions about any of the concepts that you meet each week, please let me know. It's good to also, you can put them in technical questions and course help, because that's for both things. And in fact, I talked to about something about Piaget with Katie, but she asked a good question in there. So, like, I know that this is complex and it's not familiar to many of you. And those of you who don't have a background in psychology, it's a lot. So it's just a way of orienting you to the frameworks. I don't expect you to have in-depth knowledge of all of this, so don't worry about that. I just want you to be able to have enough of a sense that you can see how this path started, and how these various components over time will sort of fit together and turn pieces of them remain and then turn into what we call constructivism later. So it will all make sense, I think, as the class progresses. But so you have to kind of just, embrace it, embrace the uncertainty, because life is uncertain, and we'll just enjoy it, and we'll go on this kind of learning adventure together. I always learn new things when I do this course, and I learn things from you guys, and I appreciate that. And I think people learn a lot in this course as well, from the student side. So I look forward to talking to you more as we continue. So have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.